What's going on? What's going on? It is Monday night, and I know it's been a minute. We missed a few weeks. I don't know what happened, but we're back now, and I'm happy to be back because it's another episode of the reentry journey. You know who I am. I am your host, Kardell Sims. Tonight, our guest does a lot of work in the reentry field, being on both sides, and this is what we like to give you on the reentry journey. People that have been through it, went through the ups and downs, came out on top, and what it took for them to get there. And tonight is just another great episode. Our guest tonight is Mr. Ken Vick. Would you go ahead and introduce yourself?
I'm Ken Vick, Executive Director of Benilde Hall, Kansas City. We are a treatment transitional center that works a lot with reentry, homeless men, everything that helps us put our feet back on the ground. And I'm also a person in recovery, long-term recovery, and I found my recovery in federal penitentiary. So been on both sides of the desk, so to say.
Right. So you said you've been to the federal penitentiary. Let's go back. What was life like for Ken pre-prison?
Boy, I went through a couple of different decades of a few different things. Started getting in trouble and this and that back in the 80s. And continuously, go to jail, say I'm never going back, but keep doing the same thing. Move to a different state so I can get away from drugs and the street life. But I always took me with me. And so that was the problem. No matter where I went, I was still there. And so I continued to work on that criminal lifestyle. I loved the rush of the street. It was a hustle. It felt great. And I was obviously very much into drugs and that lifestyle. And in between, in and out of jail for a lot of years, obviously have a substance use disorder, some other mental health concerns. And then one day, just kind of decided something needed to be different. Granted, that day that I decided that was a couple of U.S. Marshals walking up the way. They kind of helped me decide that. But basically beforehand, I thought life was fun. I thought living that lifestyle was giving me everything I want, but yet somehow I ended up unhappy more often than I ended up happy. Hurting my family when I'm not trying to.
And so when you entered into the prison system, for the first time, what was that feeling? What was that like? What was that experience like?
Well, it was a little daunting at first. I was a kid the first time I went, and I didn't know what I didn't know. I went in there thinking that it was still the street life, but it's different. And I didn't know how to handle myself when I was in there to begin with, as far as being a man. And it was a unique experience. I learned a lot. Basically, what I learned the first couple times that I ever did any kind of time was how to be a better criminal. I hooked up with more people, got more connections, and planned better criminal activities. So that was my first few times.
And so when the first few times that you went in, you came out. So with you having that mentality, I'm just becoming a better criminal, because that's how when I went in the first time, that's basically what the same thing I did. I just learned some new tricks to the trade. I'm finna get out here. I'm finna get out here and try these things to see if they actually work. And then they didn't work. But, that's how it was. So, what on the first two trips do you think that was the biggest thing that led you in the direction of returning back to prison?
Yeah, because I always consistently thought I was smarter than the system. I always thought that I could beat the system. And each time I thought I learned more, and I thought I was becoming more hardcore. And yeah, it totally led back. The first few times they did nothing but inspire me to be more, to break more laws. have more resources to do it, the whole bit. So they don't set you up to succeed.
Right. Okay. And so you went into the federal prison, and you said this is where you began to make your change. That's exactly the federal prison. I don't know what it is, but that's exactly where I began to make my change as well. What was it about the federal prison, getting caught up in that system and going through that process, that made you sit back and be like, look, something got to change. Like something got to be different.
Yeah, some of it was when I went down the last time, my son was 6, and that played a huge part on me wanting to be on the streets, to be a father and different things. And it had a little bit of a different punch than when I was a young kid and I didn't know better. But also it just opened my eyes. To this day, I hear that door shut behind me. Now, we've heard that door a million times, right? I mean, from the second I turned 18 on up, heard it a million times. But there was something about when I went in with the feds that last time, it's that door shut, and it's like a light turned on in my head saying, okay, I got to do something different. And I put a different focus. Instead of trying to find more criminal activity, I tried to find some other stuff. So,
okay. So we got a question from one of the viewers that's tuned in, and so I want to ask a question before we move on. Prior to you going to the feds and you coming in and out of prison, they want to know what were some of your core beliefs at that time.
My core beliefs at that time was, if I can take it, it's mine. If I can screw you over, well, that's on you, not on me. The strong live, the weak get suckered. I didn't have a whole lot of morality. I was an angry individual. And so it was definitely night and day different of where I live now.
Okay. All right. So now you in the feds. They gave you a piece of paper. I got one too. It said Ken Vick versus the United States of America. What was your thoughts when you seen that paper?
It's weird because that was that eye opener saying, "Oh shit, they're not playing."
Yeah, that's what it did to me. I'm like, oh man, something got to really change now.
Right, because we all know none of the Department of Corrections or BOP or any of them play, but man, the feds, they really don't play. When they decide they want you, you're done. They're going to do what they're going to do. And so that was a huge eye opener for me.
Right. And so you're sitting in there, you versus the United States of America. Oh man, something got to change. What was some of the first things you started doing to start making that transformation?
Well, I kind of just flipped a switch in my head at some point. I wasn't thinking recovery. I wasn't thinking not getting in trouble, but I was sitting there thinking, you know what? They got me in here and they're not going to let me out till such and such date if I'm lucky. I'm going to get everything they can give me. I'm going to take every single thing they can give me. That was kind of my outlook beforehand, but I was trying to do it from people. Now I'm trying to do it from the system, because I'm like, you want to lock me up? You want to keep me here? All right, you're going to give me every educational class I can get. You're going to give me every parenting class I can get. You're going to do every single thing you can give me. I'm going to eat it up, and I'm going to take every single bit of information I can gain. And so I started trying to learn stuff as much as I could, because you know what? I was just tired.
Right. And so we always hear people say, and we know in a lot of prisons this is true. Oh man, there's no courses, there's no classes, there's nothing that can help you that they offer to help you once you get out. But they do have them classes like the parenting classes and other educational classes that sometimes, even when I used to be incarcerated in and out, I would overlook. Like, I'm not going to learn nothing in them type of classes. But why is it important to take them classes if they have them to offer?
Because it's something new. It taught me some stuff. I always had the impression I was a good father and I was a good guy and all this stuff, even though all my actions showed that I wasn't. They showed me a different way to look at reality. And plus, man, nobody knows it all. Nobody knows it all. And to be taking those classes and try and learn something different, I think it's just really important.
Right.
One of the best classes they actually gave me is I finished the RDAP program.
Okay.
So I'm sure you know what that one is.
Yeah.
And to be honest, that changed my life.
And what
So,
was it about the RDAP programs? Because when a lot of people that's been through the federal system or may have heard about the federal system, you hear about the RDAP program and they instantly think it's just drug treatment program. What else about the RDAP program that you took a liking to help you out?
I can tell you that I get it. It's a drug program, but it's a thinking program. My brain is always trying to process what's going on. For somebody as intelligent as I am, for somebody as intelligent as you are, why do we keep making these choices that put other people in power of our lives? And what the RDAP program did is it's a cognitive treatment that made me start to recognize the way I think and my belief systems that kept causing me trouble. Like my belief system for years was it's not me getting high and selling drugs that's the problem. The problem was the system.
Mm.
And it helped me see that it was my beliefs that I had to change. Don't get me wrong, system's flawed. We all know the system's flawed, but it helped me realize that, you know what, if I want something different, it's on me. And my first motivation wasn't even to stay sober. I'm like, stay sober? Are you kidding me? A barbecue without beer? That just doesn't even sound right. My first motivation was I'm done. You guys don't get another day of my life.
Mm.
And through the RDAP program, it started helping me pay attention and learn. I also started gaining my spiritual beliefs at that point in time. Without God, I wouldn't be where I am for sure. But it made me realize that, you know what, it's on me to build me a happy life if that's what I want to do. I can be as successful as I choose to be. And that's what I got out of the RDAP program.
Okay. And we do have another question, and I want to answer this because before we go any further, we was talking about kind of feeling like the state owed you something and stuff like that. So the question is, did you feel like you were a victim or a survivor of the state during that time?
Oh, I felt like I was, well, depends on the age group. At one point, I was a victim, and then I was a survivor, and now I'm an overcomer.
Mm.
So it kind of depends on the decade in which my life was going at the time.
Right.
Well,
And so you say you started making this transformation because y'all not going to get another day out of me. This is it. This is done. So how long was you moving off that momentum of just y'all not going to get another day out of me until you started, it became more than just getting another day. It started to become like, I really need to make a transformation. I really need to do this because it's just not about them not getting another day out of me. It's about really completely changing my life around.
honestly, it really started to click about halfway through the RDAP program. That's 9 months. And about halfway through it is when it really started clicking a little bit more. And then when I got out and started seeing that I had less chaos, less drama. So it really clicked on using the tools halfway through the program. And then about a year out, I realized, hey, you know what? This is a life I can really enjoy. It's not just about staying out of trouble. It's about learning how to do this and enjoy my life. And I think that's where a lot of us run into trouble. I think a lot of reentry programs, a lot of Department of Corrections and everything, they just want you to stay out of trouble, but they don't care if you learn how to have fun and enjoy life. And
right. And that's what I always say. I always say it's bigger than just staying out of trouble and walking down your probation and walking down your parole. It's really about never returning back to prison again. So and being able to enjoy and have a comfortable life that you never thought that you would never have prior years back. Like 15, 20 years ago, I would think I would be in a position that I was in now because of my beliefs. My beliefs was this is the only life I know. This is what I'm gonna do for the rest of my life. And then I got hit with that paper that said Kardell Sims versus United States of America. And I didn't know when, not knowing when or if he was ever going to get out. It was like, well, if I do get that opportunity, I need to start changing some things now. So you do your federal time, you get in the RDAP program, you up for your release. How did you start preparing yourself for your release from the inside?
For the most part, I was always just that last little skid. It was a short little trip with the feds, but that little trip was different than all of my other ones because I just went in to do my time, and I wasn't going to do the games. I wasn't going to be part of any of the networks. I'm in to do my time, get my stuff done, and leave. And I kind of went about it more adult than I ever did before. And so when I was getting ready to head out, it's like, I'm just going to jump through the hoops that I got to jump through. They say do this, I'm going to do it. And I'm going to stop arguing. And I mean, I even told my PO when I got out, I'm like, I'm going to be the best person on paper you've ever had because you know what? I'm done. I'm just going to do it. You say jump, I'm going to say how high, and we're going to get it over with. And I'm never going to have somebody over my back again.
Okay. So now that you're out, speaking of your PO, what was your relationship like with your PO? You know, when I was on probation or parole, or when I was getting out of state prison, I was on parole in Missouri. Every time I got out of prison and went to see my PO, it was just like, you know, this is the first time I'm going to see you. I'm not really into no babysitter, and we might not see each other again. So get your absconder paper or whatever you got to do ready, because that's essentially what's going to happen. That's just how it was. And so I had to I had to challenge that before I got out. I had to tell myself, you know, if you really want something for yourself or got expectations for yourself, and as I'm looking at my stipulations, I'm like, I got to live by these stipulations. And I realized that the stipulations was kind of like expectations that I had for myself anyway. Getting a job, being home at a decent time at night, not out all night, you know, no alcohol, no drugs, and things of that nature. So for you, what was it like dealing with and your relationship with your PO once you got out?
It was interesting. A lot like you with when I was doing the state stuff and everything. I mean, it was always the hustle. You know, you're forced me to do this. This is oh so terrible. It's horrible. When I got out that time, I just realized that I had always given my POs power to punish me before because I kept doing stuff for them to nail me to a wall for. This time, I'm just not going to do that. I'm going to do what I have to do. And I thought about it. I'm like, you know, paper that last time was more of an annoyance because I'm already doing it. The bad part is I got the patch on, and of course I'm a furry fella, so it don't stick very well. And so I got to go to the call-in colors, and it's more of an annoyance. It's like I got to call in, I got to do these different things and go do them, but I was never worried about it. It's like when I got out and they made me go do treatment, I had my treatment plan written for my counselor when I showed up. Like, here you go, this is what I'm doing, boop, 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 boop. And my counselor's like, cool, that's great. And this time it was different because I didn't look at probation as a burden. I looked at it as that's the stuff I was going to do anyway. I mean, the things you want me to do are the goals I have set for me anyway. You said it perfectly when you said that. This is the life I want. So, okay, tell me I got to do that. I'm going to do it anyway. So
when you get out of prison, what were some of the obstacles that you faced when you first got released?
Well, at the time I was a carpenter before I went down the last time, and I got out to basically the clothes I owned. My guitar had been hawked by a family member while I was gone. Didn't really have much, and of course they put you in a halfway house first. That was one thing. It was actually a blessing to me as I did the halfway house out in Lansing for 6 months. And I jumped on the back of a trash truck, perfectly happy to hop on the back of a deaf and ball truck so I can start making some money, so I can get a car, so I can go back to a job that's going to pay me more. And I just put my nose down, in the same effort that I used to put into the street life, I put into doing something different.
And how important was that, not being picky about the type of job that you that you was gonna work once you got out? Because you hear some people, I heard it, you heard it being locked up. Man, when I get out, I ain't doing this job. I'm not doing that job. I'm not doing. How is it important to take the job that you had? Might have been the first job. It might have been the first job that took the chance on you. I don't know how it went, but how important was it to take that job?
I think it's priceless. I run into it all the time. People are like, man, you can't make no money at minimum wage or any of these things. You can't survive. And it's not about surviving for the rest of my life on that first job. It's about putting my foot in front of me. And I'll tell you right now, first off, tip your trash guys. Okay, that's a nasty job.
I never thought about that, but I never thought about tipping the trash guy.
Came home smelling like kitty litter every day. But it's that first job is so important because it's not even necessarily about the money. Obviously, you're going to save every penny you can so you can get that transportation. I had to fight to get my license back and do all those things. And I needed every penny I could get so I could do that. And as soon as I was able to do that, I moved on to the next job. It's not like I took that horrible job and like, well, this is where I am for life. I took that job because I used that as a stepping stone. And to be honest, it was another one of the many blessings in my life was being able to do a job like that. Because you want to talk about something humbling, that can be humbling. Plus, it's really good exercise running behind that truck. I'm just saying.
Right. And so you made a statement just a while ago. You said it wasn't a job that you was looking to have for a lifetime, but it was a stepping stone. How important was that stepping stone? Because we talk about, a lot of people say, well, make a minimum wage, it isn't enough. But minimum wage is more than if you're not working.
Yeah.
So is somebody out there right now that is contemplating, man, I don't know what to do. I don't want to take this job. I want to find something better, but they might not find something better. What would you tell them?
Man, take what you can get. A dollar is more than nothing. And work that into something else. Guys that have lived our life are too smart not to succeed when we try. And that's every single person that I've ever met that's done time or any of these things. Take that first job. Get smart with that money a little bit. And I get it. It's not going to do half of what you want it to do, but it's going to put your feet on the ground. We're not above any of it. Once you do that for a little while, you eventually take that next step, so on and so forth. I also recommend people go to school just because you can create your own future at that point.
Right. And so you was talking about, you said something about that you had to get your license back. So what was the process of doing that?
So I went and applied for my license because I assumed it was just expired and gone, right? Well, apparently I was in a wreck somewhere and there was a file claimed. And so because I didn't do anything with it, they suspended it and I had to go and I had to get affidavits signed and everything, a letter from me saying, hey, you know what? That wasn't me. I wasn't in this accident. There's nothing. And I had to jump through every hoop that Missouri wanted me to jump through to try and get my license back. And, back in the day, that would have frustrated me to where I would have said F it and gone off and done my thing. This time, the difference is they said, this is what you got to do. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to do it because like I said, you don't get another day. So.
And so what was your support system like? Who did you surround yourself? Now that you're out making this transformation, you got your job. What was your support system like?
I had a great mom that did a lot of support for me. I hooked up with a church where I've met some really good people. And basically, I disconnected from 99% of the lifestyle from before. I found people that were headed the same direction that I wanted to go, or at least had nothing to do with that old street life. And I'll tell you right now, your support network will make or break you. If you don't find the right people to hang out with, you'll go back. And what I did was start hanging around people that, granted, they may not have understood most of my lifestyle choices up until then because they had never lived our life, but they were headed in the straight path. They taught me how to have fun soberly. And you hanging with a different sort of crowd, when you get that urge to go back and run a hustle or do any of those things, you actually have to think and process it in your mind how you're going to get away from that crowd. You're running with the old crowd, you don't have to think about it. It's right there. And so I built a really good support network that lasted me for quite a while once I got out through the church and stuff like that.
Okay. So I want to build a new crowd and have a new support system, but I also want to hang out with my old crowd. How does that work, or will that ever work?
I'll say, okay, no. We can beat around a bush all you want on all this stuff. You go hang with the old crowd. If they're doing any of the same stuff, you're going to. You can sit there and say, "Oh man, old boy knows I can't do that, so he's not going to do it in front of me." Man, they've said that to me, and I went over to a dude's house one time, and this was long before the Fed trip, and he's like, "No, man, you're on paper. You're trying to get straight. I'm not going to give you this." I'm like, "Okay." So I went and bought a 12-pack, drank half of it, showed up at his door fairly buzzed, and he's like, "Okay, well, whatever, let's go."
Right.
So you got to really pick the right people. You cannot hang out with that same old crowd. I'm sorry. I get it that it may be a brother, it may be a cousin, it may be these people that were with you for a long time. First off, I'd back up and say, did they put money on your books? Because odds are that's going to tell you a lot about whether they were really there for you or not. But it's nothing against them. Much love to everybody that was in my past. I wish them success and happiness, whatever works for them. But man, I had to pick something different. I had to pick new people and different things so I could move forward in a healthy way.
That's right. So let's talk about how you transition into and what you're doing now, working into the reentry field and everything.
As soon as I got out, I went into it's actually Blue River College, MCC, here in Kansas City, and told them, hey, I want to start going to school. The administrative office walked me through filling out FAFSA paperwork and all that different stuff, and they signed me up for philosophy for my very first college class ever. Feds made me get a GPD, so I had, GPD is a program I have at work.
I'm about to say, what's a GPD?
Had me get my GED. And so I jumped into college, and it's kind of funny because the very first class they signed me up for is philosophy, and it was an old gray-haired guy with a ponytail. You can't tell, but I'm normally an old gray-haired guy with a ponytail. And I actually loved it, and it was really kind of cool. And so I started taking 1 or 2 classes a semester, and I felt like I also had a calling. God made it pretty clear to me a few different times what I was supposed to do. And I think my spiritual beliefs have a huge aspect in what I do. But I just started going to school, started studying psychology and how my brain works. I did do a lot of studying in prison because I still wanted to understand what was making me do what I did. But then when I started getting more of a formal education, it made a huge difference. And partially through it, I ended up going to Benilde Hall to be an intern through one of my classes. And lo and behold, halfway through, they offered me a job to be a counselor in training. And so I had to figure out how to go from being a foreman on a carpenter's crew to be a counselor in training for less than half the money.
Oh, wow.
And like I said, I felt like God told me to do it, so I did it.
Right.
With a lot of prayer.
And so when you began doing it, you knew this was your purpose, right?
Yeah.
So like you said, God kind of said, like, yeah, I'm putting this call in here, but I'm gonna test you at the same time. See if this is really what you want to do. I'm gonna put you in your passion, your purpose, but I'm not gonna pay you as much as where you at. And so what are you going to do? I really appreciate the work that you're doing. I really appreciate the journey as well. When you So my next question would be, if you could describe your journey in one word, what would that word be?
Blessed.
Mm, mm.
It blessed. It's the only word that covers everything. Or maybe I should say grace, because I've got a lot of grace coming my way too. So um not many times do you hear somebody say that the best day of my life was the day that door closed behind my head. But
Ooh.
from that day forward, my life has changed. And I've started moving forward in a different direction. And so ever since then, I've actually been blessed. And with God's grace, I'm still doing it.
So there's someone that's tuning in right now. They may be just now getting out. They may have been out for a while and they're starting to struggle. They don't know how to find a support system, or they need mentors, or they just lost. What advice could you give to them?
First off, get in contact with people like Kardell. Pay attention to what he's doing. There's connections all over the place. Um, Benilde Hall. It's on Facebook and different places. Reach out to me. I'll give you a hand. Find somebody that's going to help you work through some of the struggles and realize that you are worth it. All right. Find the right mentors. Find the right people that have been down this road and can do something different. They can sit there and show you a different way to do it. Okay? I already know that if I were getting out today and I paid attention to what you're doing, that would help me. And I think what people getting out and they're struggling and all that stuff, they need to realize that first off, you're intelligent enough to do it. You're an incredibly smart, awesome individual. But also we need to find the right people to hang with. And so find a mentor, find a support network that has nothing to do with our old lifestyle.
Right. So any other final words that you would like to say to our guests and those that may tune in on this podcast later on?
Keep helping people. It's amazing what it means to help people. First off, Kardell, you help people all the time. So I think that's a huge blessing. I'm thankful because of my faith in Jesus and the grace he's given me. And realize this, we're not a statistic. All right. We're something more. And we can live a really enjoyable life in recovery, out of prison, in a different lifestyle. You've got to decide that you want to do it. And you're more than smart enough and able to do it. You just got to continue to have the right drive. So don't let the stumbling blocks trip you. Use them as stepping stones to move forward and grow.
Mm. That's great advice. That's great advice. I really appreciate you coming on, being a guest, sharing your stories and your knowledge with us again. Anything that I can do, help out. I'm right up the street in St. Joseph. So maybe sometimes we can connect, and sit back and just have discussions and, look at the future of things. Once again, I appreciate you coming on, sharing your story. Um, anything that you can do to help us, feel free to post into our reentry support group, share some valuable information. Somebody out there might need it. Once again, thanks a lot for tuning in, and we appreciate you for being a guest.
Thank you, my friend.
All right, thank you. You have a great night.
You too.
All right.